Hi, welcome to the Rittners Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. The time of the year, it's fall, and we want to do kind of a funky, kinky fall arrangement for you, and I think you're going to find it interesting. You notice that we have our container already preset with foam in it, and we've got lots of curly willow just pushing up here, and it's all trimmed at the top at about the same spot. We have a little bit of foliage placed around. We're going to start with placing some of our flowers around here, and we can come up with something very, very readily, taking some of our flowers. In this case, we're using some of our palms because palms are certainly a fall flower, and I'm taking them and I'm just gradually working them around to create a nice kind of trim or a nice kind of edging to my design. And if you think about it, I could continue, I could stop it as a one-sided piece, or I could continue working my flowers all the way around on this, and we could stop at that point. Or we could have some flowers hanging off here or some flowers hanging off here, and it would make an interesting design. We could do that. But wait, there's more. Let's play with it a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a block of foam, and I am going to take my block of foam and I am going to impale it onto my curly willow that I have here. And I've already kind of preset this with a little bit of my foliage on it. In other words, I already have some of my greens, some of my baker fern here that's already kind of greening, but I've done a very, very light greening in terms of the base. Now, you can get away with this if you have enough curly willow here to begin with, and we have plenty of weight down on the bottom. So in other words, this kind of thing will work if you impale it well, if you've got plenty of infrastructure to hold it, and you've got plenty of weight to support it as well. Now, let's do some interesting things with this, because we can come up with something that is really going to be even more amazing than before. Now, I'm going to take another piece or two of my foliage and place some foliage here and there, because I want to make sure that I have this lightly greened, enough so that we can come up with an interesting effect on it, but at the same time we want to make sure that our mechanics are covered. And then let's start with our materials. And we're going to start with our hydrangea. We can get some amazing hydrangea at this time of the year. This stuff is coming in so nicely. It's coming in really nice amounts. It looks great. And look, you can see we have these amazing bunches that are coming in of our green hydrangea. It's green, but it's got a little touch of pink in it as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by placing some of my hydrangea in here. And I'm going to place a piece here. I'm going to work one up over here, and I'm just going to gradually work my way across, placing some of my hydrangea in place. And just forgive me for a minute, my viewer, while I cut a piece or two off here, and I'm going to place it in here. In other words, this is going to give us quite an interesting effect, I think. And again, one reason I like using hydrangea is it's a prestige flower. Everybody loves it. It's a very, very popular flower. Of course, to do something like this, you have to make sure that your hydrangea is well hydrated, and you also have to have plenty of water in your foam. And we're thinking in terms of this lasting maybe for a party or an event or something like that, where it'll look good for the occasion or event. Now I'm going to mix my hydrangea with some other things. We have some of our yellow roses, and I'm going to work a yellow rose in over here. And let's add a little bit more. I'm going to add one over up here. And then I'm going to add another one over here. Notice how this is coming together very, very nicely. So while we could have stopped at the bottom part, I think it becomes much, much more interesting when we start playing with it on the top as well. I'm going to add a carnation. I've got a very pretty lavender carnation, which works very, very nicely at this time of the year in terms of the motifs and colors that we're playing with. I'm going to work another one over here onto this side, right over here. So we're going to have something over here and over here in terms of our lavender. And then let's take another one of my favorite flowers, which happens to be the Alstroemeria. Alstroemeria is a very, very pretty flower. It's available throughout the year, and it's particularly nice when we can get it in yellows and oranges and colors that work very, very well around this time of the year. And so I'm going to work a couple of my Alstroemeria into this design as well. I'm going to place one on one side, one on the other, so that we have a very, very nice mix. And then let's take another one and work it into the middle, because we got one over on this side, we got one on this side, so I'm going to sneak one right up here as well, so that we have three of them, and that gives us a nice effect. Let's work some of our palms in. Palms are a very, very good keeping flower. They're a pretty flower, and of course we have them in all of the holiday colors. And so I'm going to work a little bit of my palms in. I'm going to work some palms in yellow into this design, and I'm also going to be playing with some bronze. First, let's play with the yellow ones, and just bear with me, my viewer, as I work a few of these in here. I'm just gradually filling in. These designs are really, really showy. They are very upscale, and they really give a nice effect, and they're not hard to do. So you can see, my viewer, how I'm just gradually filling in with some of my yellow palms, working them here and there into our design. And I could stop at this point if I wanted to, but I'm going to play with just a little bit more. Let's add some of our bronze palms into it, because we have these amazing bronze palms at this time of the year. And so I'm going to mix a few of these into the mix as well. So we'll stick one over here and one over here. And I think you can get an idea, my viewer, of just the cool stuff that you can accomplish using some of these marvelous materials that are available to us in the fall. I love the fall because the colors are nice, the symbols are good. You get all of these browns, greens, yellows, oranges, reds, red violets, things that work so very nicely together. And so I'm just adding a few more here. But you'll notice, my viewer, this design is not, this is not a modest design. This is something that's a little bit more elaborate, a little bit fancier. And I'm just adding a few more in here to round it out. I could do this design as a one-sided piece. I could do this design as something to be viewed all the way around. It works very, very well in either capacity. It gives a very, very pretty effect. And we could stop at this point if we wanted to. There's one other thing, and I leave this to you, my viewer. I generally love the use of raffia. I think raffia is interesting. Now, you may like it. You may decide, no, Dr. Steve, this worked fine the way it was, and you don't really need the raffia. But I kind of like it because I think it gives kind of a kinky effect to it. It makes it feel a little bit wilder, and it gives a kind of a very kind of wilder, untamed look to the design. It's kind of a messy busyness that I think is kind of interesting. And if I wanted to be very, very fussy about making sure this is in here, I would maybe tie a pick to one or two spots in there and then pick it into my foam so that I could be assured that it would definitely stay. So if you like that effect, you can jazz it up a little bit with things like raffia. Or another thing that you can do on something like this, which I think is kind of fun to do as well, is we could, instead of using the raffia, or in addition to using the raffia, let me pull this off, which is why I didn't pick it in. I want you to see one other approach that we can follow on this that I think is kind of interesting. We did start with our curly willow here. Well, what we can do is we can take pieces of branch and continue to extend it in through the design coming out the top. Now, it's kind of hard, I know, to see, my viewer, because this is kind of coming up fairly tall. But what I can do is I can take more of my curly willow, place it coming up, so that if you look at it, you can see pieces that are extending beyond the design. And I think that gives a very, very interesting effect, because when we're doing something like that, it almost makes it feel like some of our flowers are extending, or rather our stems of wood are extending even beyond the thing. It's almost like they're coming through even though they aren't. It's what I would call a grand illusion because it does give a very, very neat effect. So what do you think, my viewer? Interesting, huh? Kind of funky, kind of kinky. We believe here at Rittners Floral School that floral design should be fun, quick, and easy. And I think you can see that even when we're doing something that's a little bit more elaborate, we can make it fun, quick, and easy. We hope that you enjoyed this fall arrangement. On behalf of all of us here at Rittners Floral School, I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. We thank you for coming in and visiting with us today.